Welcome to the Great Shrimp Shoal. Today we have a few new surprises yet again, with some new shrimp and possibly a new tank. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the video and turn on notifications, because if you subscribe to one shrimp related video channel this year, please let it be this one. I promise you won't be disappointed. What you're looking at is more than just a few ounces of aquarium-ready water. So inside this Pyrex cup is a group of 3 bamboo shrimp, and I can't wait to add them to their new 30-gallon tank. I have to say, I'm pretty pleased with myself for adding this tank to the shoal without drawing too much attention to it. It took a long time to get ready, and I've used all of the experiences in the last few months to develop the best environment to put these new bamboo shrimp in. Right now, the group that's moving into this new tank includes just these 3 bamboo shrimp and a couple of zebra nerite snails. But you may have seen a few of the olive nerite snails from the forest that I brought over and put into the tank with the plants that I planted. These shrimp are just simply beautiful. They're a completely different type compared to the Neocaridina shrimp, and they have a different way of feeding altogether. They have 4 distinct chelipeds that have a very different construction compared to other crustaceans. It's really quite beautiful. They have a pair of fan-like arms on the end of each cheliped that open and close like the claws of other shrimp. If you've seen close-up images of the Neocaridina, their claws do have a sort of brush on them already that allows them to scrape food into their mouths more efficiently. With these bamboo shrimp, though, that brush has been greatly accentuated through the course of evolution, and now they are used to filter fine particles out of the water column as a way of nourishing themselves. It is incredibly unique. Just a quick note, this tank has spent over a month cycling and preparing for the addition of these shrimp. I wanted a good environment to put them into because I knew they were filter feeders and they might not eat the pellets that I had prepared for the Neocaridina shrimp. But, as luck would have it, all this footage comes from the first few hours of putting them in the tank, and they are happily feeding right off the bat. They wasted no time in opening up their claws and sticking their fans into the current coming out of the return from the filter, and it looks as though they're able to pull out food because they move their fans to their mouths every so often, which I couldn't imagine they would do if they weren't capturing something to eat. A quick side note, I added the olive nerite snails at the beginning of my cycling in these tanks, and I did so because they're a very hardy species, and as the tank broke itself in and developed its own bacteria and algae colonies, I started to notice a significant buildup of what I thought was nothing more than snail poop. As it turns out, however, it was a combination of the snail poop from the olive nerite snails and a form of slime algae which I had not seen in either the garden or the forest yet. It had covered every single rock, most of the substrate, and seemed to develop the fastest on the tops of the rocks closest to the surface nearest to the light. I didn't worry too much though. It seemed as though the snails loved to eat it, and I could only hope that if I did add Neocaridina shrimp to this tank eventually, that they too would love to feed on this newfound morsel. I put the pellets in there regardless because the snails will start to munch on it and it will break down, still providing food and nutrients in the water column for the bamboo shrimp to pick up on. The bamboo shrimp lumber around like some sort of bus or a truck. I've seen them swim to the surface on occasion, but when they're on the flat substrate, they move a lot more like a crab. The Neocaridina use their pleopods to swim around often, whereas the bamboo shrimp prefer to stay mostly tied to the ground. This is a freshwater variety of filter feeding shrimp, but it can exist in briny water, and it hatches its eggs into a larval state, which have to go from a brine environment back into a freshwater and go through multiple stages of development. And for those reasons, I don't expect to see eggs or baby bamboo shrimp anytime soon. Besides, I only have 3 of them, and I don't know if they are properly matched to breed and develop young. The filter has yet to develop any kind of buildup or blockage, so it is functioning at full capacity and pumping water in and out of the tank at a pretty expeditious rate. What all that means is that the current that these bamboo shrimp are sitting in is pretty significant. But they are agile swimmers in a pinch, so I think they'll be able to handle it. I've seen them scurry around the tank if needed. In this tank, I have actually planted some of the same plants that I planted in the forest, including the Rotala rotundifolia, the Utricularia graminifolia, and one singular Hygrophila polysperma in the right-hand side of the tank. That thing just can't stop growing. I think it will survive all of the invertebrates and possibly the snails as well. You can see here that I also added some Java moss, which I tied to some smaller pieces of black lava rock with some fishing line. The hardscaping was done with a collection of large lava rocks and epoxy combined with a pond foam for stability. And I underestimated the first time I created this sculpture the buoyancy of the pond foam. It's a closed cell foam, so it actually has air pockets in it that forced the rocks to float, and the rocks are pretty heavy, so that is a testament to how buoyant this stuff really is. I have spotted the bamboo shrimp sitting on every single object in the tank so far in just the first few days that they've been here. So that must mean that they enjoy the decorations and especially the plants. When I add other shrimp, hopefully the plants will have grown by that time and will provide better grazing grounds than they had in the first few weeks of the garden and the forest. A quick note on the Utricularia graminifolia. That stuff just doesn't do well in acidic water. It has melted, and the amounts of light that are both present in the forest and just this lighting setup for this new tank seems to melt it right away. So there were few pieces of it at the beginning, and there's even less now, and I think it will be gone altogether fairly soon. You can see here exactly how much of that mat of algae has actually fallen and come to rest under the initial layers of the substrate. I added more of the substrate in the first few weeks of cycling the tank, and you can see that there's a fine layer at the edges of the tank, which shows exactly how much of that stuff was around before I started filming. With the dark background, I think that this tank will provide for some really interesting shoots during the evening and in the night. So I'm going to look for some lighting that accentuates that really well. For now, I've been breaking in my new light, and I've been trying to see which of those lighting setups works the best. You can see the pond foam on the back of this hardscaping rock. Hopefully their plants will grow in and cover that up soon enough. In the back, you can see one of the new filters that I got. It's a double sponge filter from Hygger that has room for porous media as well. And at first I didn't think that just the air and the bubbles would be enough to force water through it, but then I saw the current that was produced of the water coming out, and I was reassured. So that must mean that the water is coming in the sponge filter, going through the media container, and then up the pipe and back out into the tank with some sort of efficiency. So I should look forward to those sponges carrying a good amount of bacteria and helping to reduce the amount of nitrates in the water. Overall, though, I think the amount of filtration that I have is a bit overkill. Shrimp in general, and almost all of them, are very low impact feeders, and their poop doesn't produce the kind of levels of ammonia and other nasty chemicals that larger fish do. I'm really excited for this new tank. Now, that doesn't mean that I've taken any of my attention off of the forest and the inhabitants there, but this does give me the opportunity to film a completely different type of shrimp in a new environment. Thank you for showing up and seeing the new additions to the Shrimp Shoal get used to their new tank. I hope that you will like the video and subscribe and hit the notification icon so that you get a notification the next time I drop a video. And as always, I hope that you have some sweet shrimpy dreams. After all, these are some really interesting new shrimp.